"Drive now," my sister said, throwing my keys into my hand. Her voice was steady, but her pupils told a different story. Wide, alert, the kind you get when the ground gives out under you. I carried my daughter, still half asleep, into the truck. She curled against my shoulder like nothing was wrong. The warmth of her cheek pressed into my neck. I started the engine. "Don't look back," she said. But I did, and saw fire spilling from the windows. The orange light danced across the wet street, the heat blooming even through the closed cab. My stomach knotted, not from the flames, but from the fact that she hadn't looked. She stared straight ahead, breathing like she'd been running for hours. The silence in the truck wasn't peace. It was the kind that waits for you to ask questions you don't want the answers to. I didn't ask. Not yet. Because I already knew this wasn't about the fire. It was about who had been inside. 2 nights earlier, I had opened his phone. Not because I was suspicious, at least that's what I told myself, but because he'd left it unlocked on the counter, screen glowing in the dark kitchen. The text was short. "She's asleep. Come over." My throat tightened. I read it again, slower, like the words might shift under a second glance. They didn't. I scrolled. Threads of messages I'd never sent, photos I'd never seen, laughter in pixels, affection in someone else's language. Her name was not saved as her name. It was saved as something that made my stomach turn. I closed the phone and set it back exactly where he'd left it. I did not breathe differently. I did not speak. That night, I lay beside him, our daughter between us, his hand resting where it always had, on my hip. I felt the weight of it like an anchor I could no longer lift. The next day, I moved like nothing had shifted. Breakfast, school drop-off, a kiss on the cheek before he left for work. But my mind was working, calculating, rewinding every moment of the past year. I started small, bank statements, overlapping receipts. Then the late nights explained by meetings. The weekends he needed space. I called in favors. A friend at the clinic owed me. She slipped me a DNA kit like it was contraband. I swabbed our daughter's cheek while she colored at the kitchen table, thinking it was a game. I sent the envelope and waited. In the meantime, I watched him. The way his eyes avoided mine when he came home. The way his phone never left his pocket anymore. The subtle, constant calculation in his gaze, like he was making sure the seams were holding. I smiled more than usual. I laughed at his jokes. I asked about his day. I gave him no reason to suspect that I already knew the ending to the story he thought he was writing. The results came on a Thursday. 2 lines of text. Probability of paternity, 0%. It didn't feel like being stabbed. It felt like the knife had been there for months, and now someone had finally pulled it out. That evening, I set the printout on the table. No words, just the paper between us. He picked it up, scanned it, froze. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "I can explain." I didn't look at him. I poured water into my glass, slow enough to hear it fill. The clock ticked. He kept talking, stringing together fragments of lies, hoping one would catch. I let them fall flat in the air. When he was done, I slid my phone across the table. The screen was lit with the thread of his messages to her. Every photo, every word, every timestamp. His face drained. I leaned back in my chair, calm, steady. "You should go to her," I said. It wasn't a suggestion. He stammered something about mistakes, about love, about fixing this. I stood, walked to the door, opened it. He looked at me like he was seeing someone else entirely. He was. "Take your keys," I said, voice flat, "and don't look back." I watched him leave. No shouting, no tears. just the sound of his footsteps fading into the night. The next morning, the house was quiet. My daughter slept late. I sat at the kitchen table, the morning light cutting sharp lines across the floor. The printout was still there, its edges curling slightly. It wasn't anger I felt now. It wasn't even grief. It was the weightlessness that comes when the truth strips everything else away. I thought of the fire my sister had driven me from, how it swallowed what couldn't be saved. Some things burn. Some things you set alight yourself. I folded the paper once, twice, and slid it into the trash. He no longer existed in this house, and I no longer carried his name.